Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Little Girls by Ronald Malfi. It's a ghost story. This is published by Kensington Publishing, and it's got a release date of June 30th, I believe. So that's just about, a little under a week away. And as I said, this is a ghost story. And when her father dies, Lori Gennaro, along with her husband Ted and her daughter Susan, return to Lori's childhood home so she can put her father's affairs in order. She was estranged from her father. They hadn't seen each other in, I think, like decades. And she hadn't spoken to him in months. He was suffering from dementia. And so they weren't close at all. So she just wants to go and settle his estate. She's going to sell his house, which is a big, almost a mansion. It's a big old house. Sell off all his stuff. Just put it all behind her and move on with her life, with her husband and her daughter. But once she arrives, since it is a ghost story, weird things start happening, and her daughter Susan makes a new friend, a young girl named Abigail, who looks a lot like a young girl named Sadie, who was friends with Lori when Lori was a little girl. A lot of little girls in this. Interesting. So Susan makes friend Abigail. Abigail looks like Sadie, who was a friend of Lori's, and Sadie died when she was just a little girl. And all this other weird stuff starts happening, and Lori doesn't know if she's starting to suffer from dementia like her father, or if something more sinister is at work. So there's your basic setup for Little Girls by Ronald Malfi. And as always, Mr. Malfi has written a fantastic story. For me, I've read a few of his books, and it doesn't matter whether he's writing something with monsters and all sorts of craziness and action going on, like Snow or The Narrows, or whether it's something more atmospheric along the lines of The Floating Staircase or this particular book. His writing is just fantastic. The blurb on the top here compares him to Peter Straub and Stephen King, and I definitely can't argue with that. It's just his style is really wonderful. Again, I say this a lot about different authors, but he has very detailed writing without getting bogged down. He really builds the atmosphere, and he builds the character. And this is a slow burn kind of book. Not by any means boring. It's a page turner. Again, another one I just didn't want to put down because I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know whether Lori is just going crazy or if there's something supernatural going on. What's going to happen? What's happening to Lori? What's going on around the house, her late father's house? And Malfi really is able to just build that tension, creates that atmosphere, as I said. It slowly builds, and it just builds a little more, and layer upon layer is added until you get to the end, which is just goes boom. It's just a thundering crescendo of a story, or of an ending, I suppose. It's another winner from Mr. Malfi. As I said, the characters are fantastic. Lori has a lot of stuff going on. She was a teacher and an artist, but she's taken time off and hasn't been working, taking care of her little girl, Susan. Her husband, Ted, is a playwright. So we all know that he's not making a ton of money. He had an off-Broadway play. Now he's been hired to adapt a a novel from some pompous author into a play. So at least she's getting paid for something, but he's been struggling with that. So there's a little tension in the house, financial issues. They're kind of hoping that selling off Laurie's father's stuff will help ease that. Susan is a typical 10-year-old girl, and I love the relationship between Ted and Susan. And that's another bit of contention between Laurie and Ted, because Ted is the playmate. He's the one that's always having fun with Susan. Laurie has to be the disciplinarian. And she doesn't like that she's the one that always has to do that. So there's a little tension there in the relationship, which isn't helped by what's going on in the house. And there are all sorts of secrets and all sorts of things going on. Malfi hints early on at a couple of things. There's the highway incident that's mentioned, and then there are things about what happened to Sadie, Laurie's childhood friend. We know that she died, but he slowly peels back the layers and reveals what the highway incident was, what actually happened to Sadie. But you've got to wait for it, and you're going to want to get to it. You're going to want to know the details, what's really going on. And again, just fantastic writing. He's able to pique your curiosity and make you want to just keep going to find out. More great characters. There's the creepy Lorton siblings. Ms. Lorton was the caretaker, one of the caretakers for Laurie's father. His dementia got so bad that he needed 24-hour care, so Ms. Lorton was the day shift, and there was a Ms. LaRoche, I believe, worked the night shift, and she was the one that was there when Laurie's father died, apparently by suicide. And the Lortons are definitely odd, kind of creepy people. And then Ms. LaRoche is completely different, just a young woman, pierced and tattooed, and someone who wants to, just make a living. She wants to help people, but definitely a complete contrast to Ms. Lorton. There's the mysterious room at the top of the house. They call it the Belvedere. When Laurie was a kid, it was always kept locked. She never got to go in there, and it's as far as she knows, it's been locked all this time, and it was locked. Initially locked at the time that her father killed himself. Ms. LaRoche says she found the door open and went up into the Belvedere. But eventually, now as an adult, Laurie gets to go up there into this weird room and see what was being hidden by her father. So just a lot of really weird, creepy stuff going on. It definitely is chilling. And like I said, it just builds and builds layer upon layer. It's really, I love the term gaslighting, and I guess technically it's not a potential gaslighting, because I don't think there's any point where you think someone is doing this to her. I guess Laurie might be gaslighting herself, since it's possible that she's slipping into dementia, the same dementia that her father suffered from. So I guess on that level, she could be gaslighting herself. Maybe. You don't know until you read the book. But he does well. Malfi does well at this kind of story. Some people can't pull it off, but for every weird thing that happens, there's both a potentially supernatural explanation for it, but there's also a potentially logical explanation for it. You just don't know which one it's going to be. And Laurie doesn't know. Something weird happens. She thinks, and then her husband's like, no, it could have just been this. So you've got to read it to find out. You never know what it could be, and it's definitely, absolutely worth reading. As is everything I've read by Malfi so far, but this is up there as one of my favorites so far by Mr. Malfi. And it's nice to see him getting published by someone like Kensington. Can you see that? Kensington Horror. So, yeah, you got to read it and find out what happened with Sadie when Laurie was a kid. What is the highway incident? Is she just going crazy? Is there something else at work? What's going on in the Belvedere? Just lots of secrets, lots of things to be revealed. Really, really good stuff. And again, all the characters really distinct. The estate salesperson, the lawyer, the guy that runs the it's not a healthcare agency. The in-home nursing care agency, I suppose, is what it would be. He's kind of weaselly. He's worried about a lawsuit. It's just really filled with interesting characters. And it's... the neighbors are cool. And actually, I'm a little surprised because often this type of story is really bereft. Am I using that correctly? Of bereft. I'm going to use it. Bereft of a lot of characters. Typically, you have that main character very isolated. But in this case, there's a lot of people running around in this story. Relatively speaking. So I like that. And you get a lot of contrast between Laurie and all the other people that she's dealing with. So, of course, as always, character very important to me, and Malfi really pulls it off. Just great characters. Even Ted, who, for the most part, as I said, I love his relationship with his daughter, Susan. And Susan seems like a typical 10-year-old. I would say very much so. From what I remember when my sisters were 10, she's precocious, and she'll argue with her parents and throws a fit when she thinks they're being unfair, but can be very fun and loving towards her family. But Ted, so love the relationship between Susan and Ted, and I really like Ted, except for one thing that it's something I absolutely hate. And so it adds that complexity to Ted's character, because I really want to like him, but then there's just one thing that I'm just like, I'm sorry, dude. There's that thing going on, and so you're a jackass. And if you want to know what that one thing is, you got to read the book. This is all just one big long tease to get you to pick this up and read it. Less than a week. You could save up a couple of dollars and pick this up. It'll be out soon. So I think that covers just about everything. The Belvedere, the neighbors, weird little girls. Yeah, I think that's it. So anyway, my rating for Little Girls by Ronald Malfi is 5 out of 5 padlocked doors. See, this is supposed to be a doorknob, in case you couldn't tell, with the padlock. But definitely 5 out of 5. Just incredibly well-written story. Very atmospheric, very creepy. It'll keep you turning the pages if you want to learn what's really going on. If you want to learn all the secrets, all the things that he's hinting at throughout the story. You want to know what it all means. And how it's going to end, which way it's going to turn out. It's a balancing act that he's done very well. So as I said, it could go either way, and you're not going to know until the end. And I really, those last, I don't know, 20 pages? I'm not sure how many. 20, 30 pages just are amazing. It all just, everything just crashes together. Just wonderfully done. Definitely. One of my favorite endings, I think, easily this year. Just fantastic. So that's it for Little Girls by Ronald Malfi, a ghost story. So I will have a link for the book in the description below. Of course, you'll have a little time to pre-order it. And if you're watching this after June 30th, then just order it. Don't even have, no pre, just order. But I'll have a link for that, of course, to Amazon for the book in the description down below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. The comment section will be open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning, people. If you spoil anything and you don't post a spoiler warning, I'm just going to delete your comment. But if you just, all you got to do is spoiler warning. It's not that many letters to type out, and then we can talk about anything. And I love talking about this stuff, obviously, so please comment, question, correct. If I've made any mistakes, let me know. Please like, share, and subscribe so I can keep doing this. Hopefully people enjoy it. Hopefully people are finding new books and new authors to read. And I guess that's it. So I will wrap up this episode of the Low Budget Review Show. And until next time, read more books.